Hello students, last time we have started lesson number 5, the Mauryan Empire. So now today we are going to start with the Ashoka. A little bit about Ashoka we have already discussed, as Ashoka was the third ruler of this Mauryan Empire and he is also known as Ashoka the Great. So he did a lot of work to increase the territory of this his kingdom, or we can say Mauryan Empire. And there is one incident that is known as the Kalinga War, and this Kalinga War is having very important place in the history, especially in the history of Ashoka. So let us start with the Kalinga War. Kalinga was a place that all other Mauryan rulers wanted to conquer, but unfortunately, they were not successful in that. Now, Ashoka wanted to fulfill the dream of his forefathers. Then this battle was fought, but the thing was that opposition was also very strong. Means the people of Kalinga, the soldier of Kalinga, each and every person was very brave and they fought bravely. It was a huge destruction from both sides. So let us start. So it was in the year of 261 BC that Ashoka decided to add Kalinga. At present, this Kalinga place is in Odisha to his already vast domain. The opposition offered to this invasion was so stiff, it means it was so hard for Ashoka, that the conquest involved immeasurable destruction. Immeasurable destruction was there, huge destruction, huge loss of a human being as well as resources, money, everything. So it is said that nearly 1,50,000 persons were carried into captivity, means carried into or sent into imprison. Means near about 1,50,000 persons were imprisoned, 1 lakh were slain, and that many times that number perished from famine. It means lakhs of persons were died, and many more were perished, means died due to some kind of cruel war, some kind of other, means here as we are talking about war only, so due to war, and from famine means when there is a scarcity of food, as lakhs were killed, more than lakhs were imprisoned. Then during that time period agriculture was not possible, so there was no food. So due to lack of food, due to shortage of food, many more were died. And other calamities here, kind of diseases that occur after war. It means it was a huge destruction, lakhs of people died, lakhs of people were imprisoned, many more had to give up their places, they just moved away from their places. So it was not a good sign, not a happy sign for Ashoka even. So what he did, that topic is given in this its consequences. So when consequences will be there, you will start with that Kalinga War. Then due to that Kalinga War, what happened in the life of Ashoka? The Kalinga War was the turning point of Ashoka's career. Ashoka was totally changed after this war. All this misery awakened in his heart the feeling of profound sorrow and regret. Why his life was changed? Because due to that kind of destruction that we just discussed, his heart was full of sorrow. He was not happy with this victory. He just regret what he did. The war drum was silenced forever. It means now forever, means he now just vow that he will not fight anymore with anybody to conquer the land portion. From that time onward, Ashoka preached nothing but peace. Means he started to preach peace only, not anything else, not a war, not a victory, nothing else, but only peace. He became follower of Lord Buddha and employed his unlimited power and resources in the teaching and propagation of the ethical system. And means now he was the follower of Lord Buddha, and for the promotion of Buddha, or we can say for the popularity of Buddha, or to deliver Buddha's message in other areas, what he started to use all his resources for the teaching and propagation of an ethical system, and that ethical system is called his dhamma. Dhamma means law of pity. So he started to propagate that particular dhamma, means it is not a kind of religion but a type of dharma that is based upon the humanity and peace. With the death of Ashoka, the Mauryan now, means rest of his life he just do everything for the peace, for the Buddhism, for the humanity, for the service of humanity. Means everything was around the peace only after that Kalinga war. Now, with the death of Ashoka, the Mauryan dynasty ceased to be a political force. The later rulers continue for a little more than 50 years. So, as Ashoka was very brave, but when he gave up the warfare, his military power, his political power, that strength was weak due to, as he gave up warfare, so his army was passive now. Then after Ashoka, the upcoming rulers, they were not capable. One reason was this also, that he gave up warfare, so his soldiers were passive now, and it was only 50 years time that spent by other rulers of this Mauryan dynasty after Ashoka. Then finally the dynasty came to an end and gave way to the rise of Pushyamitra Sangha in year 187 BC. So with this, it was the end of Mauryan Empire. Okay, so from here the important question is Kalinga War. And Ashoka's Dhamma we will discuss, as this is a particular topic in our chapter. And in this chapter, the important topics are first of all, the first ruler of Mauryan Empire, that is Chandragupta Maurya, then Ashoka, then their administration. Main topics are these. Then there is one topic, extent of Ashoka's empire, that is pan India. It means near about the entire land portion of India was under Ashoka. So let's have a look over this map. So this is the map of India, and up to this area the modern India, and this is the area that are in Pakistan and Afghanistan. So near about India, as well as the area that is not now in India. So all that particular area was under the control of Ashoka, or under the Mauryan Empire. So this is the extent. Major question will not come in your paper from here, just the extent of Ashokan Empire. If it will come, then you can start from which area to which area this is there, like included the parts of the Indus Valley, Kashmir, foothills of Nepal, entire Ganga Delta. Tamra Lipti or modern Tamluk was an important port on the Bengal coast from where ships sailed for Burma and Sri Lanka. To in the south the empire extended as far as Mysore, means up to Mysore. In the southern area this empire was extended. Okay, no need to deeply move in this topic as only areas are mentioned here. Okay, then advantages are given here. There were three main advantages of the pan-India character of Ashokan Empire. So that three characters are: first is it resulted in the disappearance of small states. Those particular small states that were still surviving with their small rulers were disappeared. It means entire India was under one flag only. Second, it enabled the rulers face foreign invasions successfully. It means now foreign invasions means the earlier what was happening, foreign invaders were coming to India, that they started to plundering India, or some were invading India, some were conquering, some were just taking that particular land portion under their control. But now as entire or pan India was under the control of one particular ruler only, so they can face foreign invasions successfully, means they can defeat them easily. So it facilitated trade and commerce with frontier towns as well as the Middle Eastern and Greek cities, as the control is of one particular ruler only. So trade was easy to move from one place to another place, even with the Greek cities that were there, and even with the neighboring countries also trade was going on. Otherwise it will not possible. For example, if one person wanted to do trade from this particular area with the Sri Lanka, so it will not easy for them as only sea route was there. So if this area is also approachable, then they can use both waterways as well as landways. Okay, now this was a little bit only. Now start with the main topic of this chapter, that is Mauryan administration. So question could be there explain the administration of Mauryan, or what do you know about the administration of Ashoka, or what was the administration of Chandragupta Maurya. So any type of title could be there for the question of this, as we are not having separate topics in our book. So whenever we are talking about the administration, it means we are talking about means in this chapter Mauryan administration only, whether it is Chandragupta Maurya or Ashoka. So as only two main rulers were there, so they will ask about Ashoka or Chandragupta Maurya only. Okay, the Mauryan administration. So from where we got all the information of Mauryan administration from two books. If we are talking about literary sources, one is the Kautilya's Arthashastra and another one is Indica. Okay, the main is in Arthashastra. So from Arthashastra we gain a lot of knowledge about Mauryan administration and character of empire. Ashokan inscription. So this is another one, that is Ashokan inscription, that tell us about the policies of his government. So let us start with the king. So whenever we are talking about administration, if we are talking about the modern administration, we will talk about the government, prime minister, council of minister. So as in that particular time it was ruled, means the country or the area that was governed or ruled by rulers. So here we will discuss the king. The king was the supreme head of the state and had military, judicial, and executive powers. Means all these three main powers were in the hand of a ruler only. He also had the power to enact laws. It means legislature or legislative powers were also in the hand of king only. We learn from Augustinus that the king was a very hard worked official who does not sleep in daytime but remains in the court the whole day for the purpose of transacting the public business. Means for the welfare of a common person. He was even not taking rest daytime. He was doing all the things for the welfare of his public. Then Kautilya divided the king's day into 8 parts. It was the king's duty to give close attention to people's welfare, social order, and military action. So it means near about each and every power was in the hand of king, and the king was doing his best for the welfare of his kingdom. After king, second position was council minister, as we are having prime minister and his council. So similarly, council ministers were there. The king had a council of ministers that is known as Mantri Parishad, and they were there to advise him, and they were small in number but very influential. At times, the Mantri Parishad could act as a check on king's power. The ministers definitely advised the king in the task of choosing governor generals of the army, treasurer of the state, chief magistrate, and other high officials. Means all these prominent authorities can be appointed by king, but this council of ministers were there to advise him that to whom to appoint. Then a network of spies were there. Spies means a kind of soldiers, those who will provide them all the informations, like secret agents. Then modern state made extensive use of reporters and spies to keep the emperor well informed about his opponents and their activities. It means they were having that kind of reporters, the secret agents, that were there to give each and every information about the empire, about the other rulers, whatever they are doing to the king. Megasthenes called spies overseers. Overseers means supervise. Kautilya called them the good Purushas, that is the secret agent. They reported to king important matters concerning the army, state, and conduct of his officers. Means each and every information they were providing to the ruler. Then they are having these authorities: king, council of ministers, and network of spies. So to run the huge empire, to run this kind of system, they need money. So for that money, the main source was revenue. Revenue means to collect a kind of taxes from the land portion, or we can say agriculture. Arthashastra provides a detailed list of the sources of revenue, which include land revenue. First and main is land revenue only, and other are from mines and forests. Revenue from manufactured goods of various kinds, tolls payable for using bridges and roads. So as normal or as modern time also, we are paying toll tax. So tolls were also there on using bridges and roads. Fines and license fees, this was also there. It means near about everything that is going on in modern time. Kautilya said that taxes must be reasonable, means only that can be paid, means not harsh. The ruler should act like, means according to Kautilya, the ruler should act like a bee. Bee means here honey bee, like a bee which collect honey without causing damage to flower. Here flowers are the public from where they were collecting the taxes. So according to Kautilya, ruler must be like a bee, those who are collecting honey, but they are not damaging the flower. It means they will not harm the people. The land tax varied from 1/3 to 1/6 of the product. I mean, it was varied from 1/3 to 1/6, paid either in cash or kind. Cash, you all are aware, in kind means they can submit the production, means crops. There were considerable expenditure on public work, especially construction of roads, wells, and rest houses. Means the emperor, they were using huge amount of that money in the construction work also, like roads, well, rest houses. It means they were using that collected money for the welfare of their people only. Other major expenditure was a large army. Large army was also required for the protection and salaries paid to officials. So they were using that money in these kind of particular works mainly. Then is the provincial administration. So when we are talking about provincial administration, we are talking about the sub portions of that kingdom. Like India is a country and the states are provinces. So let us start with the provincial administration. Next to the emperor, means next rank is of the governor in charge of provinces of the empire. So after Ashoka, not Ashoka, sorry. So after the emperor, whether Ashoka was there or Chandragupta Maurya was there, Bindusara was there, or any other, next position was the governors. The Ashokan inscriptions mentioned 4 such governors posted at Takshila, Ujjain, Tosali, and Swarnakri. So these were the 4 major provinces, and their 4 major governors are mentioned through Ashokan inscription. Means from that inscription we come to know about this. The governors had their ministers and also had the power to appoint a few officials, like chief ministers are there and they are having their ministry also, and they are having the power to appoint few other officials. Same power was given to these governors. The smaller provinces were under officials called Pradeshika, means if that particular province is small and with the less population. These are the 4 major, rest of were small, and officials were there to run the administration of those small provinces, and those small provinces were called Pradeshika. And the Ashokan edicts, we come to know about all this kind of information. Next is the district administration that we will discuss in our next video. Thank you.